And I want to thank especially Kevin Roberts and all of the Heritage Foundation for 50 years of incredible work on conservative policy.
You know, we're coming together in the great tradition of America, self-organizing and doing this. We're not, to be sure, you know, connected to President Trump's campaign, but many of our ideas you'll see one-to-one mirroring.
Hey out there, America, it's Rich Logis from Leaving MAGA coming with you here with the MeidasTouch Network. Just want to thank you guys for our first couple of videos we've done. We've got over 1.5 million views. Really honored, really humbled how much of you out there really care about our work and what we're doing here on MeidasTouch Network. You know, before I introduce my guest, I want to just mention that when I left MAGA, I came to realize just how many of the ideas and the beliefs and the mythologies within the right wing and within the MAGA community really came from a variety of nonprofits and faux educational institutions. And I often wondered, what would it be like working on the inside of one of these organizations? So we've got someone for you today who actually was on the inside. I want to bring her in. Her name is Guinevere Nell. I want to just first thank her. Guinevere, happy to have you with us. I want to first thank you. Thank you for your intrepidity in willing to go public here and tell your story. So you were at the Heritage Foundation. So talk a little bit about your role, what it was like on the inside, and also because of Project 2025, I think that Project 2025, there are so many Americans who are just now learning about it. How many of the ideas of what you've seen right now were present in some form when you were at Heritage?
It's a really good question. So first of all, I haven't been working there since about 2013. But even before that, I had moved to London. So I wasn't in the building except for mostly 2007, 2008, 2009. So that's where I saw the most. But I did get newsletters and all the inside stuff and worked on the model and kept working for them through to 2013 when I went back to contract. But I was a full-time employee for at least 5 years. And, you know, I worked in the Center for Data Analysis. What we looked at was economics. We did an I ran an economic model that was an individual income tax model. It was supposed to be, because it was not dynamic, it was supposed to be non-speculative. It was supposed to project what was going to happen with the different tax plans. So we actually looked at tax plans of senators, the current tax plan, the baseline, you know, whatever the president had, versus senators, presidential candidates, Romney, Paul Ryan, Jeff Sessions, whoever, you know, senators, but always Republican. And I always had a little bit of a concern that we weren't being very fair. I also must mention that I was in a bit of you could call it an echo chamber, where I also was associated with a university that was very free market. I had very free market beliefs. I did not like the religious thing that was going on at Heritage, but I was very excited to be working for the Center for Data Analysis and the free market side. So we sort of, you know, you could say, you like separate things, you know, within yourself. And so I sort of separated out the religious stuff, which I never really liked. But looking back on it, I mean, it was the Heritage religion people on the 6th floor. They were very much connected, and family values people. They were very much connected to groups like the Family Resource Council, I think it's called, which is signed up to Project 2025, and some of these other groups. And some of these groups were also at the university, which is also, it was in Northern DC. And there were a lot of groups and a lot of people who were, in a way, had faith to the free market in the same way that the religious people had faith to their version of Christianity and their policies associated with it.
Okay, so thank you. So then it sounds like there, and I think that as you're saying this, what I'm thinking about is there's this politically incestuous relationship between politicians coming to you, asking Heritage, which is work that you specifically were on, about creating tax plans and how to market those. And then there's these other aspects that you're saying, for example, the Christian theocratic beliefs that are so prevalent. And I think given that you haven't been at Heritage in more than a decade yet, these ideas are not really novel. And so
Right.
as we look at right now, what politicians, Republican Party, Trump, MAGA, when you hear all of these individuals, when you hear the party, when you hear a lot of the right-wing pundits and the influencers, whoever it might be, Musk or Tucker Carlson or Alex Jones, Bannon, any of these individuals, Trump himself, how much of Heritage Foundation rhetoric do you really hear? Do you stop and think, oh, that sounds like Heritage and that sounds like Heritage?
In one sense, no. Like it was different when I was there. There was the Koch Foundation, there was Paul Ryan, there was what a lot of the Trump people would call, the never Trumper, or at least they've turned their back on Trump and they're like the bad guys now. On the other hand, a lot of things sort of got passed along. A lot of the same ideologies, the same groups, the same people. Some of them were swapped out, but there was always a revolving door at Heritage between the Republican Party and Heritage. So the fact that people were swapped out wasn't surprising. It did surprise me when Project 2025 came out of Heritage. That shocked me. It also shocked me a few years earlier. I had been slowly learning. I knew already that our tax model and our approach to spreading free market economics beyond the academy and into the wider world, along with some of these other groups, was not entirely up and up, but looking back after I had walked away from it, I noticed things like them ignoring corruption amongst people that were part of Heritage at the time when I was there. So they gave an obituary to Ed Meese. He was part of the Reagan administration, part of this revolving door thing. And any Republican that he was chairman, he was on the board of directors at Heritage for a long time. He was loved by them. And the obituary just ignored the Iran-Contra scandal and a lot of other sort of corruption and even criminal activities, and just spoke about what a wonderful conservative he was. And like I said, there's a lot of faith in free markets, faith in Heritage, faith in people, faith in the cause. Sorry about the cat. I'm a childless cat lady, proud of it. But it was a shock to me to see that it had differed. But at the same time, I saw the roots of what would become this. There was the money side, which was the side that I was involved in, and there was the religious side, which I tried to ignore. And the two of those sort of came together, along with some of the more radical things in the academy, in the academic world, which was all connected with the free market stuff that was going on at Heritage. The more radical parts of it were very anti-democratic. And so looking back on it, it's actually not a surprise that these things kind of all came together into something that would become Trumpism and Project 2025, because they all were not, they were so anti-communal that they didn't care about values. They didn't care about people. They cared about hierarchy. There was racism there that was hidden at the time that is not so hidden now. And, and this sort of hierarchy, women are less than men, is built into some of their assumptions. Some of them would even talk about scientific theories about racism that are very racist. It was all there if you looked for it, but it wasn't so obvious. And it took someone like Trump, I think, to bring it all together, and someone like Heritage being willing to accept it. And I did notice that Ed Fulner came back for a couple of years. He had been gone. Maybe he was trying to stop it from going to Trump. I don't know. I don't have that insider knowledge because I haven't been there in a long time. But as a tool, it's been used to tie these things together, to tie all the groups together. There are hundreds of groups who have signed up to Project 2025 and who are making it into an authoritarian project, which is like Christian nationalism. And some of them have said it out loud. They are the American Taliban. And I did see Heritage Action come to life while I was there. The excitement around it, the knowledge that it was skirting the boundaries of what they were supposed to be as a nonprofit, but the excitement of creating another group that was going to go out there and fight for something, which turned out to be Christian nationalism and hierarchy.
So I am very happy with the JD pick. I think it's transformative for sure. Yeah. And he's, think of him as a member version of what we do. Yeah. So there's no think tank, no policy organization, no battle plan creator other than us for the worldview that I think Donald Trump has and that JD has. The best example is like the campaign selected me to be the platform because of their views on my policy ideas, and they're not running from all of the negativity that I get from the press.
I see. So they haven't been spooked on you as a person, you don't think?
No, I mean, I don't think I'm going to be their transition pick, because then they have all these kinds of stories.
Yeah.
But no, the relationship is great.
The head of the Trump transition team has not yet been appointed, but Vogt says that no matter who is named, he'll be able to hand over his Project 2025 battle plans directly.
If it's someone like Stephen Miller or Bob Lighthizer, then all this stuff gets plugged right in. If it's not, we'll figure it out.
Okay.
But all of it will be designed for a theory of the case that President, if a battle plan is out there that will do what he wants, there are the people like me that have his trust that will be able to get it to him in whatever position we're at, or I could be at Center for New America, but the relationships will be there, the trust level will be there.
And are you going to rebrand that second phase at all?
For what I do,
yeah.
The brand's not important.
And you're not worried that if it has Project 2025 on, he's going to go
no.
And you're not going to publish those?
No.
They go straight to...
Yeah, they're very, very close hold.
Okay.
Brilliant. It's been an education.
Appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Anytime.
Thank you very much.
For those of you out there, including anyone who's been at Heritage or works there now and says, "Oh, Guinevere is just a disgruntled employee, and she had the basement office, and no one ever saw her or spoke to her." We've got all those receipts. Okay, you were someone in your department, in your division.
They relied on me actually for all of those income tax
Yeah.
modeling simulations. They looked for a year before they could find me, and they accepted me without a PhD because they were so desperate to prove their economic message.
And I think this is a point, and I'm not going to say it's wholly absent on the left, but this is something else that I
do take responsibility. I should have known better. Sorry, go on.
Oh, okay, well, thank you for saying that, because I always say about my story in Leaving MAGA that the first non-negotiable rule of leaving is you have to take accountability, and you're doing.
And I've written a mea culpa, and I am, yes.
You know, and it shows the bravery on your part to do this, because Heritage is probably amongst, if not singularly, the most influential of all of the nonprofit think tanks on the right wing. And I think that while it's not wholly absent on the left, something I came to conclude after leaving MAGA is that on the right wing, they're only principled when it benefits them. And when it doesn't benefit them, then they just forsake those principles. And I know that that's partly human nature, and people operate that way.
They have a much looser association with the truth and the facts and the evidence, it turns out, than many people on the pro-democracy side. I'm not talking about Democratic politicians in particular or anything like that. I'm just saying that there was a lot of loosey-goosey with the truth even then, and now it's much worse, unfortunately.
So tell us, break down for us, what compelled you to want to go public? You know, what are the fears you have? What is it that you're seeing right now that prompted you to reach out to us?
Right. I have no particular fear about myself. I wanted to, if possible, get my message out because, first of all, I did feel really guilty. I looked back and I said, I can't believe the place that I worked for came out with Project 2025. It really did shock me. And then I had to start looking more closely and say, why did it do this? And I was involved in this. And I wanted to say, I'm sorry. And I didn't think anyone would listen to me. And I would be very surprised if anyone cares what I have to say. But honestly, I can see it now. Looking back, I can see all the bits of it in academia, in what I saw in Project 20. When I first went to Heritage, I was like, you're a think tank. You're not going to be able to afford, a certain salary. But if you could possibly squeeze out this much, as a nonprofit, it would be really helpful. And then I saw them get a whole brand new facade. They said 80%, 90% came from small dollar donations, except they left out the hundreds of thousands or millions that came for specific projects. Like, let's change the facade of the building. Let's have a humongous Christmas party on this amazing, gorgeous, rooftop, whatever place with a chocolate fountain and all of that stuff. And the bonuses, if I was getting the bonuses that I was getting as a relatively, you don't have to pay her a lot because she doesn't have a PhD next to her name person, then how much were the people at the top getting? It was obvious that they were getting a lot. It was a con, and it still is. It's a tool, but it's a tool being used by authoritarians. So whether you blame Heritage, whether you blame the other groups, whether you blame academia, this is my story, is I should have known better. I shouldn't have worked there. We're all part of democracy. We all have to do our bit, and we all have to admit when we did wrong.
Well, I think you mentioned earlier about the anti-democratic tenets within Heritage. Certainly, I think it's fair to say that with Project 2025, one of the reasons all of these ideas were collectively compiled is because I think many, many years ago that the right wing realized that they were not going to win democratically, lowercase d. So they took on this approach of minoritarian rule and trying to install
That's been
judges
going on for some time.
the gerrymandering, all of this that's happening right now. And I don't want anyone to construe what I'm about to say as a reason not to vote. Everyone needs to get out registered. They need to get out there and vote. And I think that if we have the kind of turnout we can mobilize for November, I really do think that the Republican Party can be historically repudiated. Now, if that happens, which is good news, I think, though, and I want to ask you this, I think that a group like Heritage, like so many of these other influential nonprofits, they're relentless. They're not just going to go away and say, "Oh, we lost. Project 2025 gets shelved." Right? Is that fair to say? They're going to keep coming.
They've been working on this for a long time. Apparently, certain groups have certainly been working on it. You can see the change in certain groups, like when they realized it was a political advantage, and they know this is their last chance because demographics are changing, and they're really, if they want their vision, this is their last chance. So they're going all out. They're willing to cheat. They're willing to do anything. I'm not just saying that. I mean, you can look it up, carefully with facts and evidence. Heritage Action went out and spread this voter fraud stuff. And they also taught people how to put in fake electors and stuff like that. When they started up, when I was there, they were running through the halls. They knew what they were doing wasn't technically correct or whatever. And they were just about action, not about, as a think tank, Heritage was supposed to be looking at things reasonably with facts, with evidence. Heritage Action was part of Heritage. We saw them all the time coming through the halls, exciting everyone, giving talks and all of that. And they didn't care about facts and evidence. What they cared about was getting out there and trying to win. And that's what it turns out. And that's why they were so closely associated with the Republican Party, because they were helping them win, because that was, again, going to put into place what they wanted to put into place, which turns out to be a very authoritarian Christian nationalism, which is not what I expected. But that turns out to be their goal.
Guinevere, I just want to say, in addition to thanking you again, you said earlier, you asked her, I'm not sure if people are going to care. I think that there are going to be many more whom you realize who are going to see this video. Maybe they're on the fence right now. They're aware of Project 2025. And I think as a result of this courage of what you're doing right now, telling this story, I think you're actually going to persuade some people who are undecided to come over to the side we need, which is the vice president, Democratic candidates. So I don't want you to sell yourself short. You're going to be our heritage whisperer. We're going to ask you to, whenever we have a heritage question. So I just want to thank you for being here. Okay, I know it took a lot of guts for you to be here. Again, we were with Guinevere Nell, formerly at Heritage. You are doing a great public service for the nation, not just up to November, but beyond. Thank you so much, Guinevere, for being here.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
I just
wanted to share my story and to get the word out about some of these things. So thank you.
And we're going to help you do that. Thanks so much. Hey, America, if you like this video, be sure to subscribe down below so you don't miss any Leaving MAGA MeidasTouch videos and updates. Thanks so much for watching.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Meidas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.